Welcome to another relaxing long play of Manor Lords. My name is Typical T, and today we press on with the growth of our fledgling nation, and though we suffer setbacks, we keep moving forward. So, without further ado, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and join me as we immerse ourselves in the governance of the land. It's the height of summer, and we've got a few upgrades to be making down here. Looks like we'll be going up to a level 3 burgish plot, which is excellent news. So we're pressing on towards that medium town goal for Brunbach. And then what we're looking to do over here, we've got harvest coming before too long, and we're working on getting the new woodcutters and forester stations set up so that we can hopefully start to focus on making some charcoal here that we can then export as a source of income for this region. So let's get down a couple of charcoal kilns over here as well, and we'll also want to build an additional woodcutters lodge so we can make sure that we've got enough supplies to feed our charcoal kilns. So we'll turn off road snapping and we'll pop that one right next door there. And the harvest isn't terribly far away. We're only 40 days, so just over a month and we'll be there. And hopefully we'll bring in a bit more money and we can start to diversify production in our other burgish plots. Over here in Hagstrass, we're doing pretty well. We're going to have our first harvest here with rye that we're going to be turning into bread, which is very exciting. But what I also want to do is diversify our military a little bit. At the moment everything comes from our single region over there, and as we saw some time ago, we are vulnerable if a brigand decides to attack directly into this region because we're right up against the border. We will not be able to get help anywhere near enough in time to stop the tragedy that occurred last time. But to do that, we're going to need to import some weaponry. I think that's going to be easier than making it ourselves here. Although, how are we doing for planks? We're pretty good for planks, so we can probably make our own shields. We'll just need to buy in spears. So with that in mind, let's convert one of these newer properties over to the joiner's workshop where we can make said shields. And at the trading post, let's open up trade to import spears, and we're going to want a surplus of, let's say, 30 or 36. Yeah, so we'll equip one unit and then we'll have enough spears left over to re-equip that unit should they suffer major losses. Another thing I'd like to do as well is open up an additional trading post because we're not having full efficiency with this one here. So by opening up a second one, we'll put on the King's Road there, hopefully we'll be able to export some of that excess dress stone that we have to help again bring in a little more money. And we're also going to want to get down some more dwellings. We've got some vegetable. How are we doing for vegetables? We're pretty good for vegetables, still shy on fruits, but we have got a few fruit tree fields on their way. All the same, what I think we might well do is get down some additional fruit tree dwellings. And I think we'll just mimic what we've done here. In fact, we might as well almost go all the way up to the border here. And we'll make these pretty large plots. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So let's reduce that by 2 more, and that will give us 6 nice plots with which to plant orchards. So we'll pop those down there so they can be built post haste. And then just as soon as the joiner's shop is open, we will go to advanced and we'll get large shields being produced. and we'll get an extension built on there as well. Heading back over here. What do we have in terms of available workforce? Not loads, so I'm going to leave 2 families on construction for the time being. We're doing okay for food now. We're making good use of that mushroom patch. And we're making good use of the fish as well. And then hopefully we'll be able to make a bit of rye bread. And then over our main settlement, let's check there's nothing we can upgrade. And there we are. Oh, we just missed it. Obviously, they changed their minds just as we arrived. But we do have one down here. Ready to go to a level 2 burgage plot. And let's pop down here and ensure that on the upgrades we've finished, we have got the animals ordered in. It wouldn't do to be missing out on that. And how are we doing for cider ale? Pretty good on ale, so let's open up this tavern here and overstock to 10 again. We'll get 2 families working there. And we'll check on how we're doing here. So it looks like we're doing pretty well for supplying people. We're definitely missing the outside edges though. It might be that some of those are catered for by this tavern. We'll have to see how we go with that. And we've got some dwelling spaces available. But now that each of these has got someone living in them, just as soon as we've got people moving in down here, we'll start to double up the living space in our new orchards. So then let's head over here to Mandalak and just double check how we're getting on with salt production. So we've got plenty of available living spaces. We've 4 families working down at the mining pits. And pretty soon we're going to need to make sure that we've got a steady supply of tools. That's what we're low on at the moment. So we don't have access to an iron deposit here, so we're going to have to start buying in iron pretty quickly. So let's go to our trading post. And what have we done here in terms of trade so far? So we've made a bit of money by exporting salt. And how much spare salt do we have? Because we're currently also bartering salt away. 37. Currently bartering it away to get carrots as well, to make sure that we've got enough food. But hopefully as our domestic food production comes online, that'll be less necessary. So we have got carrots, beets, and then we're going to need cabbages. So we'll get those ordered there. And then just as soon as we've saved up enough money, we're going to open up import on iron ore. That's actually 0 because of the perk we took. Wonderful. We'll import and we need a surplus of 10, let's say. That'll be a good start. And then with that spare labour we've got at the moment, let's get a bloomery set up. Which we'll not be able to do because we need to get some tools. Let's temporarily change the barter connections. We do have 6 months worth of food. So let's go and change receiving from carrots to... We'll go to tools for the time being. And we'll go and change that over here, our neighbouring bartering connection also. Change carrots to tools. And hopefully that'll bring in enough tools for us to kickstart this region. Fantastic, and since we have a bit of spare labour, we'll just double check on living spaces. Is there anything we can enlarge? Doesn't look like it. So let's get a second lot of houses set up behind these. And what do we want these to be? Let's make these large enough that they can have vegetable gardens, I think. And we'll just go immediately behind this row. And let's come out that far. These don't need to be massive. We'll go to there. And let's make these reasonably sized plots at the back. Go for 4. And then we'll surround that one with a road as well. More royal tax. It's getting really quite expensive. And as well as the construction, we'll set an additional family to work at one of the mining pits. In fact, let's go for 2 families. That still leaves 4 working on construction. And let's double check. We've had a tool arrive, so we can put that to good use straight away. And use that to construct a bloomery. Which will pop down there. And that will allow us to start churning that iron ore we're getting in. We'll be importing very soon. Turn that into iron. Which hopefully pretty soon after that will enable us to get on with making our own tools. Let's check down here for upgrades. No, not at the minute. It looks like we're pretty much at harvest time. So let's get a few families working over here, and we'll also nick some of the foresters so they can go and help as well. And we'll do the same with these foresters' huts, just so we can get a full farmhouse working. Ordering some pigs for them there. And that's our available living space for the moment. Right, and we're also going to need to do the same over here. We need to free up some families from working at the foresters. And get them over into the farm. And we're also going to do the same with some of the gatherers and also with our fishermen, as they're needed for the harvest. Can't miss the harvest. So they're pushing on with getting that set safely inside. And Hagstrass, let's do the same, make sure that we've got enough families working the farmhouse. Where are we going to take those families from? Let's take them out of one of the quarries for the time being. And get a full contingent working the fields. And then just as soon as the harvest is done and the grain has been produced, we'll get them over at the windmill. And another thing we're going to want to do in Mandaluk is just as soon as we have the bloomery constructed, get iron being smelted, but we're also going to want to build a farm here and start gathering some rye ourselves. So again, we can make sure we have plenty of food production for this region. I'm not sure that we're being terribly efficient over here. Let's turn that off and see if that makes any difference. And we've still got money coming in over here. But over here, how are we doing? We've got 20 large shields and 36 spears already. So let's raise our own unit here. And let's disband one of the units. we have available to us in the other region, is I'm actually going to want 2 units here in Hagstrass, which they'll build up over time. And that's because 1 unit on their own might be hard pressed to push back an invasion of brigands on their own. So having 2 here should enable us to keep this area nice and safe. Looks like our fruit trees are coming along nicely, and we've had a family start to move in here. So let's get these new plots we've put down ready to grow some fruit trees. And the last one there. Fantastic. And we're already working on planting or ploughing for the next region, and we've got a small yield of rye sheaves here, which is great news. And again, we're well into that process here in frost check as well. Imagine in Burenbach we're doing exactly the same as well. And how much did we manage to harvest here? 54, so that's going to give us a fair little bit of bread actually, which is going to be good. Another source of food diversification. Order an extra ox, never hurts to have an extra ox. And looks like we've loads of spare families. So let's get a few families back into the foresters' huts. Because having enough trees is very important to our economy here. And how are we doing for sheep? 63 and 31. So I think we are dropping in number with the amount that we're slaughtering. So I want to make sure that we're bringing in more, and actually let's see how many we have been bringing in. We've imported a fair few sheep now. How are we doing for other meats? We've got loads of mutton, we've got a bit of chevron, we've got quite a bit of pork now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over to the butcher that we set up. And let's set him to make sausages, because we have salt now being bartered from one of our neighbouring regions. And making sausages isn't going to affect our sheep production numbers. So hopefully that means we can continue to grow the number of sheep we have available to us. And you can see we've got lots of wool, lots of hides, lots of yarn. And let's also double check, we don't actually need any mortar being made, so we're going to take him out of the lime kiln. That's going to save us on costs from importing stone rubble. And we still haven't picked up the goods from there, which isn't much fun. And the hunting camp is still being very unproductive. So we're going to unassign these families because they're a complete waste up there. And we're going to put 2 to work in the bloomery. So we do now have iron ore. In fact, we probably only need 1 working in the bloomery. We're going to put the others to work at the mining pits. And as you can see, it's important that we get the tool supply set up here nice and quickly, because without that, we're going to suffer a lot of cave-ins down at the mines. Let's get an additional ox. And what do we need to upgrade? We need church access, meat, fish, animal products. So church we should be able to do. Lovely, and we can fit that in the central space here. So we're going to put it down right here. Yeah, we'll go side on like that. Like so. Pop a road across the front there. And as for meat, we're not having any success with our wild animals. So that's something else that we're going to have to be importing. But I don't want to have to worry about that immediately. But that is going to affect getting upgrades. So what we're going to have to do is open up a smithy instead, where we can produce the tools without having to set up a burgish plot to do so. Like so. And just as soon as, yep, we've got that salt mine back open, so that's good. So we can keep pumping out that salt, because that's what is propping up our economy over here. And what is stopping us from upgrading here? Well, apparently, these families have nothing. Which isn't very good, is it? Let's look at the market stall supply. So I think that's telling us we need to have some additional market space. So let's do that over here. We'll build out a little space here. And in here, we're going to have a new granary and a new storehouse. And they are going to supply a new market for us. We'll get some additional water in here as well. And then let's fill this space up with a market. That looks good. And we'll also get a few pitching posts built here as well. And how are we doing over here? We seem to have really cleaved into the space that we have for our trees in this forest. So it might be wise to get an additional forester's hut popped down here. And we've got all that turned into grain, so we don't need all these people working here anymore. Which has really freed up a large number of people to help with construction. And how are we doing for the fields over here? Looks like we're done here as well. And we've just got a couple of sheaves left to turn into grain. How much grain did we manage to get out of this year's harvest? 97 wheat grain. Which is a more than decent number. So let's get some families working the windmills. And let's also make sure that our communal oven is staffed, ready for when the flour is produced. And then our spare families, we'll get them quickly into the forester's hut for the last little bit of time we can spend foresting and planting trees. And then we're also going to get... we already have some firewood, so let's start by getting a family working in the charcoal kiln there. And let's also expand the living space in these dwellings. So we've got space for additional families to migrate to the area. So that should bring us a little bit of charcoal production. And over here as well. We've already got some sheep happily grazing in our pastures we've put over here, so that's going to help increase fertility. And we're done with everyone here as well, so again, let's get some windmills. Some families working the windmill. And let's then also make sure we've got a family or two working the communal oven and get our families back over in the stone quarries. And fuel still isn't fantastic. How are we doing on firewood? It's still a case of not turning it into charcoal quite fast enough, so let's open up an additional charcoal kiln, which we can stock with some of our spare workers. And we've got some full pantries, so let's get a look over here. How are we doing? It's probably about time we had an additional granary here anyway. So let's get an additional granary and storehouse. And then we'll also open up an additional market down here. Which will surround there. I certainly hope they didn't leave anything in the fields. I'd be very, very angry if they did. And now we have a granary and storehouse down here. We'll get a couple of workers in each. And we'll upgrade these as well to be larger. And we'll also upgrade our hitching posts where we can. Order in some additional oxen. And although it's winter, we've got so many spare families here, I don't think we need to worry about taking anyone out of the forest huts. It might be worth as well getting a few extra workers in a weavers, because we are not making use of all of the wool we have. So we've got 26 wool there. So let's open up an additional weaver's workshop, which will pop just down here. And yeah, we've got a problem here with the storehouse as well, but I think we'll assign those additional families to the new storehouse rather than overstock the other one. And up here, we're doing better on the food front. Let's expand the living space on our new properties as winter settles in. We don't need... well, we could plant the herbs actually. Might be a good use of our people there. And let's get a family working at the smithy. Do we have any iron? 8 iron slabs. So let's set the smithy's production. And we're going to want maybe 100 tools. And let's then change our barter connection again. And now, instead of receiving tools, we want to receive some meat, which is going to help us upgrade. So let's go for pork. And we'll head over here. And once again, we'll do the same with our pack station here. Instead of tools, we're going to send pork. Because we are starting to have a nice little surplus of pork. We're 84 now. So all of those additional piggy boys we've got at our various homes are working out. And let's get our additional spaces opened up here on the extensions, so we've got more families that can move in. And I'm thinking pretty soon as well we're going to want to expand our farms here as well. Speaking of farming, now we're getting on down here. So we're producing no charcoal yet. But let's get our foresters here into the charcoal kilns. And let's leave 2 families on construction actually. We don't want that to stop completely. And how did we do on malt? Got 74 barley, 38 wheat grain. No one working at the malt house. No, we don't. That won't be helpful, will it? Let's get a family working at the malt house so we can start making malt to send over to our neighbour. And now we've got the new granary here. We've got a family working in there, and 2 families in the storehouse. And we'll then also upgrade both of those. And already we've filled up these houses, so we're going to extend the living space on these. And then we'll come back and start planting some trees here as well. Once that's been done. And let's get an additional family working the charcoal kiln as well. So things are looking much more stable up here. We've got food for 8 months now. And hopefully we're starting to bring in a little bit more money. Let's have a look at what we're spending everything on. So we've made 336 from our salt, but we've spent 143 importing iron. But we do need the iron. Let's go to the, yeah, I think we want a minimum surplus of 10, don't we, iron, and then we're making tools with what we're bringing in, so that chain is working. I almost wonder if we want an additional mining pit. It might be something we start exploring before too long. But I would like to get a... Oh, people are cold. No surprise there. In fact, let's go over there, because I don't see why people should be cold and we've knit as much wool as we have. Although actually it looks like we've used all the wool. Now we've got people making the additional yarn, and we've actually used all of the... Oh, that's right. We're in frost check apparently. Let's just tab through the towns. Right.
Don't be shy, good sirs
So,
and ladies.
We've got 181 yarn, so yarn is becoming the limiting factor. Let's get that plot upgraded while they're happy, and we'll do the same down here as well. And we've got a couple of families working down here, so they're working to supply our new market area. And let's get 2 extra families in each of these because we have the spare capacity. And that'll help make sure we've got everyone well supplied. But what we are going to want to do as well is open up some additional smaller properties that we can set to work as tailors. And what we could do is we could continue the practice of changing these here. So I am going to want to get some additional goats eventually, so we can start making even more leather than we already are. But let's change 2 of our goats here to be tailors' workshops, because we don't yet have a strong surplus of clothes. I'll upgrade that tailor's workshop to level 3 burgage. I'll get that one upgraded to level 2. We have a reasonable amount of living space available and free there at the moment, which is good. And here we're changing a reasonable amount of our firewood into charcoal, which is good because it's more efficient. And we made a little bit of money this year from sale of some of our wheat. So with that money, let's get some planting done. Or do we want to open a trade route for charcoal? How much is that going to cost us? 60. So let's establish a trade route, and we're going to export when we've got surplus of 100. So with those homes upgraded and living space available, we can keep plugging away at increasing our charcoal production. And we need maintenance. We should have plenty of tools here. 29. It's not stacks, but it should be enough. So we've got a clay furnace, fisherman's hut, saw pit. Got our foresters, which we don't need at the moment. We've got one bloomery operational. How much iron ore do we have? 10 iron ore, 105 slabs, which would mean that our bottleneck will be our smithy. So let's get an additional family working at the smithy so we can produce more tools. And how have we done for bread? Yeah, we've got 59 rye bread. So that's been well used. And if we haven't got any flour left, which we don't, or grain, then we don't need anyone working the windmill, so we can pull them back off. And how are we doing for sheep here? We've got 14 sheep and 2 lambs. And where do we have our sheep pens over here? Sheep farm. Let's get an additional family working at the sheep farm. And we need to start turning that wool into yarn here as well. So let's open up a weaver's workshop, which we can fit in there quite nicely. And let's expand our fields here. So can we plant any flax here? Not really. Except for maybe a slither here by the looks. It's well past the border. We've actually got a little bit of green for Emma as well. But it's even better for rye. So let's extend our farm space out across here and make use of it. So we'll come across here. Go for one large field here actually, and make good use of the space available to us. And we'll snap to road like that. So that's going to be a large one Morgan field. So there's one. Let's get another one filling this space here if we can. Doesn't seem to want to snap to the road. Start from this side. How bizarre. Well, in that case, let's build our own road. Just shy of the King's Road. Let's see if we can get our fields to snap to that instead, which we can. Perfect. So we want this again to be about 1 Morgan. 1.1 will do. And we're probably going to need to do the same road trick for the other side here as well. And again, we want to go for about 1.1 Morgan. So come slightly further down there. And we'll settle for that there. So that's 3, and then we'll try and get another 3 as well. So come back a little bit there. That's 1. That's 2. And that's 3. And then we'll set these up on the same crop rotation. And that's just going to further bolster our food production for this settlement. And then we're also going to add pasture space to any of the fields that we haven't done so on already. I think that's all of them. Lovely, so that should keep people here busy. Next harvest and planting season. And we've got that additional trading post now as well. And they're set up to do exactly the same on trading that our other post is. So we'll get a family working there and we'll order in a horse. And over at the Manor Lords salt mines, we've got our church constructed. So the only thing we're missing now is the meats. And we can order in a mule now as well and get a second one assigned. Which should help speed up the bartering connection. Let's continue this road across there, so it's a little bit more connected. And look at that, we've got plenty of fuel and the food is really picked up, and we have got pork coming in. So families should be able to upgrade at any time really. Let's get an additional family working at the granary and same for the storehouse so we can increase supply a little bit. And there we have our first place ready for upgrading, so we'll get that one going. And what do we like here? So we've got some fertility down here by the river or the lake. And then a fair bit up here as well. We don't really want to be building over that because that's where our mushrooms are. We've not had anything useful out of the wild animals anyway. So I think this might be a good place. But we'll start here with some smaller fields anyway. Let's build a farmhouse right in between the two. On the main road there. And then we'll set up some farmland here. So let's go for 6 fields. So that's 1. Get this one and make the most of the green space we have available to us for fertility. And if they are slightly larger fields. So that's 3, that's 4. That's 5. And that's 6. And we'll set all these up just the same as we have with everywhere else. On a yearly rotation of 3. To give the fields plenty of time to rest emptying production. But that's not something that's going to be planted up until next year in any case, and while we'll be doing that, we've got a fair few more homes ready to be upgraded, so we won't waste any time in getting that process started, so we can start to make an income off of these properties. And that's grand. And yep. I need to be checking down here as well because it looks like we can start upgrading at these to level 2 now that we've got some better market stall supply on this side of the town. And we've still got 10 available spots for people to move into. And we should also really think about expanding our farmland here as well. So once again, let's check what's fertile. Looks like we're going to need to set up a different farm for this one. And let's do it over here, because we may even set up some housing closer over here. So let's continue this road across. We'll come out in a straight line to start with. And that just edges onto the right there, so that's really good. And then let's just draw a line along here, mimicking the route of the fertile land. Lovely. And we'll build a farmhouse situated just in here. And we'll look to build a hamlet on this side of this road. But for the minute, let's get some of these fields set up. So we'll start down on this side. And again, we'll aim for about somewhere in the region of a Morgan per field. And we'll just fan them across like so. Until we get a little bit straighter. A little bit further down there, that's perfect. And we'll just make use of all of this space we've got. Right down into the edge of the green where it starts to look a little bit more yellow. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this will be number 6. And then we may want to split up the fields we do over here. So let's put a road coming down here. And then let's take that across these fields here. Lovely. And there'll be no surprise to anyone that we'll set up these fields on the same rotation. There's going to be no shortage of rye in our future, and rye bread, that is for sure. Become a nice new staple. And that's going to significantly boost our rye production. We really are starting to fill out through the centre here as well, which is lovely. Growing our town and our city. So as we march our way through the winter and head on towards spring, we've got a settlement upgrade completed, and we should be in for a good year of farming in the year coming. So we've upgraded our settlement level here, which is always a nice thing to do. Oh, and we've got quite a few properties ready for upgrading as well, so we'll swoop as and when we can to get that done. But I would like to get a farmhouse constructed ready for spring. And do we have any spare labour? Not loads here. We do have available space for people to move in though. We're coming to the end of upgrading these properties, so that's positive. Because soon we want to be pushing to export more and more charcoal. There's plenty of fibre at the moment though to be made into charcoal, so that's fine. Over here as well we've got our other fields ready to go come spring. We are running out of space for people living here, but let's go ahead and assign our orchards here. So we just need to put in the last 2 when those have been finished, and then we'll think about expanding some living space And I think here as well we're going to put some small plots, so because we're pretty good for vegetables, we're pretty good actually for fruits, considering we're coming to February and we've still got some available. But we are going to want to up our meat production, so again I'm thinking of keeping more pigs so we can get more pork coming in. But we've actually got a year's worth of food supplies ready for us here. And we'll just keep plugging these upgrades as and when we can. And we're actually short on lumber. So let's make sure we've got a production limit set up on our saw pit. Yeah, we shouldn't be using... let's up that to 40. And let's get an additional family working at the logging camp. And let's build another logging camp when we can. Obviously we've got no logs at the moment. So maybe we ought to get 3 families working at the logging camp so we can bring more of that in. But I think we'll be ready come spring. And how are we doing for our militia down in Hagstrass? Looks like we've filled out those units. We've got 35 shields and 36 spears. And we've spent a bit of our money to get there, but we're there now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to our joinery. And I'm going to set him a production limit. Because we don't need a ridiculous number of shields. Let's set it to 72. That's plenty enough to fit out a unit twice over if they become too depleted. And let's get some pears in the ground there. It's just apples, I believe, the last one over there. And there's plenty of construction going on across our various regions. And the next place we'll build accommodation in Broombach will be over here to supply the new farming district, I think. And we're getting a bit more timber in now. So we'll continue with our housing upgrade program. And we're nearly there with the farmhouse as well. We'll need to make sure that we get a forester working here this year though, because we will soon start to cleave out the forest with an increased number of people working on chopping down trees. And it may be high time to settle another settlement. I think we might go with Hedewond now, because we are making our way up around here. And we've got military forces in Hangstraat. We've got our main military forces in Broombach. And then if we put military forces in Hedewond, then we've got each of our regions without military neighboured by regions with. And also with the stone deposit we have here, I'm thinking we build a magnificent keep atop the cliffs here. We've not done it elsewhere, but we've got a strong supply of stone here that we can harvest to make it happen. And as the royal tax increases, we're reminded of the fact that if we do want to be self-sufficient, at some point we are going to have to take on the Baron. For the moment though, I'm not going to get down here straight away because I would like those mushrooms to grow in size. The deposit, although we can afford for a larger settlement start over there than we've done previously. Okay, so we're coming into March. And with that comes time to make sure that we've got families working in the farmhouse. So we'll assign some families as we can to there. And we'll even take a couple out of the salt mines to get them working here at the farm. And we'll do the same for here. We'll get this farmhouse fully staffed to get working on these plots. And then all the way over here as well, we need to staff the fields, because they're no good to us without crops in the ground. And we'll plant our apples there to complete our rather extensive orchards. We're down to 3 living spaces here. So let's get to thinking about where our next burgish plots are going to be located. Well, I think along the side here from the church is going to be a good spot. And these are going to be just large enough to have a working area at the back or the rear of the property. And they're going to be single dwellings. So pop those there. We'll pop in an alley. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. And we'll build another road to facilitate that, because I quite like the idea of these backing onto each other. Hopefully we've left enough space there. Just about, by the looks of things. But we don't have enough timber in any case, but that's where we will place more when we do. So we're hard at work planting the additional fields there. Somewhere we haven't planted additional fields is down here, in what is really the breadbasket cross-check. But I don't think we really have the families at the moment. We're going to need a few more families to move in before we consider really upgrading the size of our farms. And with the spare families at the moment, let's get them bringing in some more fish. And just keeping on working at bringing in more charcoal so that we can really start to make a decent income from it. And how are we doing with the trading? Still waiting quite a lot, so I'm not too worried about getting an additional family working on trade thus far, or just yet. But we are going to want to make sure that we've got the means to trade efficiently. So let's get another hitching post set up here. And when we can afford it, we're going to order in a horse. So we've got 5 available living spaces here in our primary region. And actually those tailors we set up to make sure that they're making the right thing. So we've got more clothes being produced. And we've got plenty more sheep now that we've taken care of not slaughtering quite so many because we couldn't set a limit. And let's make sure that we have all of our fields set up with fencing so they can be used for grazing sheep. And let's add in an additional sheep farm here, and that sheep farm can be responsible for the herds that will be kept over here in these fields. And let's make sure we've got plenty of foresters at work over here. I'm tempted even to get additional forestry built. Knocked down a tree when I did that. That's rather counterintuitive, wasn't it? We've still got houses occasionally ready for upgrading over here, which is grand. How are we doing for trade here? Bringing in a fair amount of salt, but we are still selling a fair amount of salt rather. We're still bringing in a fair amount of iron ore because we're turning all of that straight into tools, but we're nearly halfway towards our tool production goal. And we're getting those fields planted. And of course, with rye comes the need for windmill and oven. windmill placed down. And let's get an oven ready. And we have a bit more timber, but still a bottleneck for us here by the looks. And let's look to settle our new region. So, settlers camp. And let's get it sat right on the edge here. And we're going to set up a plentiful camp. Because we can. And then let's connect this up to the King's Road. We'll take a nice winding road up the hill, round the centre, like so. Make sure it's nicely curved, but not too much so. And then let's connect that into our little starting camp network. Like so. And immediately, as we always do, let's start to think about layout. So we'll start by settling. Looks like our only fertile ground is up here. No, actually, we have a bit down here, a little bit there. Even so, let's set up our housing to start with. Maybe in this forested section here. And I do want to think about where the manor is going to come to. So the manor, I think maybe even, will occupy this entire red space here. Across here with a gate here. I might put a gate here. Probably not though, so a gate there. Walls come around here. Walls come around here. Probably encompass just the edge here. And kind of be this shape here. Shaping around this road. Or maybe incorporating this road and coming out to the edge of the fertile land. So let's start by putting some housing in this area over here. And to that end, we'll build our granary and storehouse off this road. As always, those will be our first and highest priority. And then let's get some water, a marketplace. It needs to be quite so big. That'll do for starters. And we're going to need a logging camp. And a woodcutter's lodge. And a gathering camp. And a saw pit. And we still have enough timber left over with our strong start that we can get some housing. So let's go behind here for that. And we'll just start with some burgish plots. Aren't too big, so we're not encroaching on our nice fertile land there. And we'll set those up. Maybe not for vegetables. Let's set these up then, just big enough to have small holdings at the back. Animal pens. And we don't want to waste any space here, so we'll even shorten this a little bit. just like so. And that can be our initial housing here as well. So we'll leave them to get to work. Next most important thing after the granary and the storehouse is the forager's hut, so we'll set them to do that. And how are we doing with planting here? Looks like we're part way along. Let's pull off 2 more workers from the mines and assign them down there, so we get a nice strong harvest in our first year. And how are we doing down here? Looks like we're all done, so we'll send everyone back to the construction pool. And what are we lacking? Still not got massive support because we are trading some of it away to our neighbouring regions as well. So we are rather engulfing our manor here. So maybe let's leave this space here for the manor. All of this space. And let's put some housing along here to service our fields. And we've got plenty of vegetables still, so I don't think we need to worry about additional vegetable plots just yet. Let's make these a little bit more quirky. We want them large enough to have small holdings at the back. And I quite like having them fanned out actually. That looks nice. And then we'll build a road through here. And we'll add some more houses along here. And maybe we'll make a couple of those. Yeah, we'll go with that. And then let's get a granary and storehouse established over here as well. Don't know if we can just about squeeze one in here somewhere. Doesn't look like it, just a little bit too tight. Might we'll get one in there though. Let's swap the granary and storehouse around. There's still not quite enough space there either. Start with the storehouse, and then look at the granary. And we'll just put that on this side then. And then install a little market space in here. And we'll also look to, yep, perfect, we'll slot some water in there. And that then gives us some expansion. The additional fertile land we've got over here. And what are families down here lacking? It's still clothing and it's still beverages, but we didn't get a lot of malt in last year, I don't believe. Although how are we doing? Oh, yeah, nearly out of ale. We've got lots of rye flour left over. And I don't know that we ever actually made a bakery. It's like we forgot to do that in this region. So let's get a communal oven in place. Maybe we'll pop one down here as well. Not enough goods. Yeah, need to import some more stone shards. Okay. Fantastic. Let's get a few extra workers in that forester's hut. And build another for good measure. Oh, and let's hope we didn't lose too many resources over here because it's been raining. Let's get, oh dear, not quite that many. Let's get a couple of families working in these, so we can get our goods stored away safely inside. fields over here completed. Not quite, we're getting there. So just finishing up with sewing here by the looks of things. And we've got a little bit more money. Let's order in an additional mule. And we're doing okay for food. How much pork have we imported? 17. Here's a nice surplus of pork here with the pack stations working. Let's build that forester's hut we were talking about earlier. And everyone is done now, which is wonderful. So let's go back down to our standby crew member. Get 4 back working at salt mines. And that's going to free up a few more for construction. Let's get those hitching posts upgraded to small stables. And it would be nice soon as well to get a few families working on orchards. Looks like we've successfully got all the stone deposit. So let's get rid of the stone gathering camp. And let's build that additional salt mine. Full position here. And connect up to the road. And we'll get a couple of people working at the forester's hut as well. And Hedewand, how are we doing with moving those supplies inside? Looks like we're still on it. There's more supplies than there would normally be to move inside. So we'll leave them to it. And we'll leave the other family to continue working on construction. Down in Hagstrass, the fields are growing nicely. We've got plenty of available accommodation from our new development over here. And let's not waste any time in getting these set up. So let's make 3 apiaries. Let's get the rest to be a combination of goats and pigs, I think. So we'll get construction going on those. And we'll get another couple of people working as foresters. So we have already started to chop down quite a lot of the forest here. And, oh goodness, cross check, we've finally been exporting a decent amount of charcoal, which is absolutely fantastic. So we have 3 available living spaces. And with that money, let's set up some orchards and expand these living spaces here. And let's also construct some animal pens along these properties here. That should keep them busy for a moment. And then we'll need to start thinking about getting some additional housing. So rye is good everywhere. Emma's pretty good everywhere. Flax is particularly good here. Barley is particularly good here. So we might be able to get some housing snuck in here. So we will look to do so. Let's make these fairly small again. We are going to want some vegetable plots, but those aren't going to be these. There's plenty of construction to be worked on in FrostCheck, and now we're exporting a decent amount of charcoal. That should unlock the economy for us to an extent. And do we still have barley? No, so we've made that all into malt now, which has all been exported by our pack station. One assumes. And presumably, yeah, we made into ale here. There's a little bit left over at the moment, but it's mostly being consumed. And is that bakery ready?
Never.
Where do we put the bakery is the next question. Over here. It's a tannery. It's a granary. Storehouse. Tavern. Give me 11. Let's get a few people working there so we can start producing some rye bread. And then with all our additional housing down here, we'll get someone working at the sheep farm. And we'll start getting these ready. Let's get 3 apiaries. Maybe even 4. And then let's get some chickens. And we'll do one more chicken. And we'll make the rest animal pens. And that's a nice little farming community we've got going down there. So quite happily growing away here. Let's get another load of people assigned to the mines. We seem to be doing okay for tools. Export here is still taking a while to catch up. Let's get these ready for vegetable plots in any case. Then over in Hedewand, still working on construction, but everything should be inside now, so we'll get just those reassigned. We've got a few more people available for construction. Let's move the hitching post. And let's get a family working in the forager's hut. That leaves the question of what we want anyone to do in terms of their development pack. It would normally be the masons. We already do have masons. I think we do need to do it here because it's all about stone here as well. This is actually where we're going to build our more impressive keep. So we'll leave them to it for the moment. And let's come back to Grunbach, and it might be time to start thinking about the manor. So let's go to our saw pit and set a new surplus for how much lumber we want left over at any one time. That is, if I can find our saw pit. I've got 2 down here. I want a reserve of 100 timber before we start making any planks. To make that a reality, we're going to significantly expand our lumber storage capabilities. Take a road out here and build 1, 2, 3, 4, Oh dear. Out of tools. We have been doing a lot of construction. We have a little bit of iron. We have a few iron slabs. Let's go over to our bloomery. We've got a family working there. Might up that to 2 families. And let's get our smithy. That's 2 families as well. And our armourer. I'm going to set a production limit on spears for the moment to 200. And with that limited, let's go to our trade post. Check how they're getting on. Yeah, they're pretty good. Let's increase the amount of iron ore we want at any one time to 80. Because without tools, we're going to become pretty sad really quickly. And let's also get some families working at the granary and storehouse over here to service this new neighbourhood. And we'll check in on our new region. Let's get family working at the logging camp to bring in some additional timber. But we've got everyone inside pretty quickly, so I'm quite happy about that. We're getting on down here, still bringing in a nice reasonable amount of money. We've got new dwellings going up as well. And let's get in. Let's do all of these as pigs down here. And then let's build all ready up here. What's the numbers down here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they're going to contain goats. And we're almost at harvest time. Let's get an additional couple of families working at the forager hut to get most of our foraging opportunities. And an extra family working at the fisherman's hut. And then we've got a nice number of sheep growing. Do we have anyone working at the weaver's workshop? We don't, so we need to assign a family to work at the weaver's workshop so we can start to turn some of the wool we're probably starting to get in. Yep, 48 wool into yarn. And then we'll need to construct one of our new properties over here. So will actually need to be changed to produce clothing. We might as well start with one on the end here. They're going to need to upgrade first though, so there's no great hurry for that. It might even be we need to change over one of our properties that's already at a higher level. Yeah, let's change you over to Taylor's workshop. There's plenty enough space for others over there. I look forward to these orchards being full because they're going to make us so many fruits. More fruit than we know what to do with. Harvest is still a couple of months away. Still just about keeping on top of the tool situation, but that could go bad quite quickly, so quite keen to keep on top of that. How are we doing here for environment? Yeah, we've definitely reduced the amount of forested land we have. But I feel like we are working pretty hard with reforestation. And to prove it, let's get our additional chap down there. Build a couple of roads. And then from those roads, more foresters. Reaching out over the edge. We're still not quite there with the clothing here. Still only one surplus clothes. Got plenty of yarn. Let's make sure that these... Yep, they're both set up to produce clothing. This is just going to take a while to get on top of that issue. We do have a quite sizable population here now, 437. And we've got people starting to move in over here. And a little bit of money trickling in here now. We are still spending a lot on iron ore. They're slowly getting more tools. And over here, let's get a family working at the woodcutter's lodge down there. And let's get an additional ox and make sure we've got the space to keep him. So we'll build another hitching post located just there. And we need to upgrade these dwellings to have more living space so we can start getting families moving into them. And we're up to 75 timber here. So let's have a little look to see what we can do with the castle planner. So, walls and gates. We want to start here, right at the edge, and we're going to wall off this area here. Let's follow the King's Road. Hold that out to there. And then we'll come back in across here. And reconnect there. So we've got two ways in. And let's get some outer towers. And we'll pop one of these. Oh, seem to have deleted our walls there. Let's still want to pop one of these in each corner really. We can always rebuild these walls. And let's get a few perimeter ones as well. Because this will be the stronghold of this area. And let's go back to walls and gates. And connect up our towers. Like so. Might need to move a few things here. Including the manor. Yep, let's face you into the middle there. And let's move you next door. So we need 99 timber and 65 small stones to make that work. We just as well add a tax office, so we've got a few more buildings in here. Close that, so that's the plan. And let's go over to our saw pits again. And set that reserve even higher to 120. Let's go over to our trading post. And we want to bring in a surplus of 80 rubble. We can start building towards our first manor, protected manor, which is going to sit right in the heart of our most populated land and will provide us with a nice defensible area. We may import enough smooth stone to upgrade it. I'm not sure because our true fortress is going to be over there on the cliffs in the new region that we've settled. This is more so we have a nice settled lands within Burenbach. Splendid. What I'd also like to do is I quite like the idea of having a burgish plot inside of the walls which has a nice large orchard. So I'm just going to build the one of them and we'll come right across here and pretty much fill the space with a nice single square orchard. In fact, we only need a very small frontal section here. And let's build a road that we can use to hem it in. Turn off Snapter Road. Looks pretty good. Let's make it a little bit smaller so we don't interfere with any of the guard posts, guard towers. Okay, I think that'd be nice. Get rid of those roads. And we'll wait until we have enough resources gathered to make it happen. Still got a decent flow of finances coming into here with plenty of living space. Let's order in all of the goats along here that we wanted to. And we'll turn the last two into apiaries. We will when we have enough money. And over here, we see our orchards, our fledgling orchards are coming along quite nicely. We spent a fair bit of our money here, but hopefully that'll start to even out. And how are we doing for wool? 45 wool, 7 yarn, and let's set. Yep, you're already making woolen clothes, so that's good. So gambesons is something we'll start to produce once again. We get some flax planted over here in Frostcheck. And as we get people moving in over here, we'll continue to upgrade these properties. And a granary is still being constructed there, so obviously We've been building quite a lot up here, so it's taking a minute, even with as many unassigned families as we have, to get that construction properly underway. And we're probably going to spend much of our regional wealth here on buying in everything we need to make the manor construction happen. But we're not terribly far away already. And royal tax is going up again. Totally unacceptable if you ask me. So we're just a month away from harvest. And again, we're just really waiting for our salt trade to kick off. Let's get an additional family working here, and we will purchase a horse to aid with trade. And in Hedewand, we're still working on constructing those upgrades to the houses. So pretty much we'll leave them to it. Let's get a couple of families back working in these stone mines. And how are we doing for fuel? Up to 8 months for fuel now, so that's looking quite nice. We've got some forestation going on, which is good. And let's, as people start moving in here, we'll start purchasing in the relevant goods they need. Fuel isn't a problem here because we're exporting charcoal at a rate of knots, but food still isn't perfect. But we do just need a few more families to get moved in before we can really get going on expanding the farms. And let's get these ready as well. We'll make these small holdings for the time being. I do think it's easier to upgrade somewhere from a small holding rather than wait around for your level 1 birch plot to become high enough to make a level 2 type dwelling. And let's get a second storehouse and granary. We'll set those up here. And let's upgrade that small hitching post to a stable. And let's start to think about getting down a wooden church. And we'll put it just behind our row of houses here. Looks like it's a little steep actually. We'll put it up here then. Bordering onto the road. And we'll link that across here. And again, we've got properties ready for upgrade, so we'll just keep plugging away with that. We're going to set this up to be an orchard. And it looks like we're ready to start construction on our manor. What I might do though is set up another orchard on this side. So what we'll do is we'll close that and we'll take a road across here and kind of map out the space that we're going to have available to us inside of the walls. And build a burgish plot in here. build out to the space. Let's just extend this road a tiny bit more. So I think we almost had that how we wanted it then. In fact, we might need to set a restraining road across here as a temporary one. Snap to road initially. Oh dear, it's an odd shape, isn't it? Snap that into there. Lovely, that's absolutely perfect. Exactly what we wanted. We'll get rid of these roads. Wonderful. And I just want to get this built before we commit to building the manor. So I'm not still completely sure on what we can and can't do once the walls are up. Because I know at one point you couldn't edit anything inside of the walls once it was built. And I don't want to get stuck with a half-completed burgish plot within our manor. So we'll let our workers get to work on that. And very soon it is going to be time for the harvest, so we're going to have to start pulling people off other jobs and sending them to work at the farms. And that's going to be the case right across all of our regions. Apart from Hedderwand. We're the only ones without farms. They're all in good time. Who'd ever the bind for us down here? And the harvest is practically... Ooh. Bother. Well, just as the harvest was about to get underway, disaster strikes, and we've had a band raiders appear near Hedewand. Brigands, and we've only just settled this region, so they are not going to be able to defend themselves. There's not much left of the AI to be taken. They never really got over the attack they suffered. They will just sort of hang around in a little huddle now. I don't want that to be our fate. So who do we have available to us instead of mercenaries? Do we have anyone that can get to Trimmerho or Hedewand? Because our forces are too far away. So there's two in Trimmerho. So we're going to have to hire them. They're quite far away. You need to run. Don't think they stand much chance of making it in time. Where are they headed? Looks like they're headed directly for our settlement. This could be costly indeed. And this is why we were talking about making this a bastion. But unfortunately, in your first year, you're never going to be able to get your defences up in time. So I fear we are about to witness tragedy unfold. But that doesn't stop the fact that the harvest must happen. So in each of our regions, we're going to make sure that we've plenty of workers assigned to work on the harvest and on next year's crops. Now we're doing a bit of reforestation here, so that is slowly progressing. And over here, going to need to take out some of our forager hut. I think for the harvest we'll need to empty our charcoal kilns of workers as well. And as usual, we're going to have to take away a couple of workers from the fishermen's huts. And over here, now we've actually already got a full lot of workers there from when we planted up these fields, so they are already taken care of. And yeah, we don't stand a chance of getting here in time. Oh, actually, no, they are all headed straight for our fledgling outpost. I am so very sorry. Alas, they're very nearly here, and our mercenaries are still quite far away. There are probably actually more brigands here than we have settlers in this camp. Take one last look at our beautiful fledgling street before it's all taken away from us. Once again, we know the pain and the flame of the mercenary rage. They've managed to get into our one settlement that is completely unprotected. I'm not sure it really is war, friend. It's bullying, really. Taking advantage of those who cannot defend themselves. Smoke rises above the forest, and our citizens and their belongings burn. Our troops are still far away. Hopefully we'll be able to rebuild. Perhaps we should have waited another year to settle, but there was no way to know. I'm not surprised. We just lost our only granary. There's no point running all the way, because we won't be left in a fighting state. What we might do is run one unit, and the other two will arrive rested. Although I don't think there'll be a single building left standing by the time we're done. The brigands are done here, and we may well lose our villages to starvation. Right, well, we should start with rebuilding. Oh dear, we have no resources. This may well be the end of Halo 1 before we even really got going, because we have lost every single building. It may not be possible to recover. Right, send those units in to engage. That might even be worth setting them up here. We'll keep moving our other columns into position. But with no resources with which to rebuild any of the buildings, can we even put them in settlers camp? Doesn't look like it. We may have lost access to the gem of the map. We'll make them pay. At the very least. Paying for the destruction they've wrought. The poor villagers, they don't know what to do. Never have we kept our settlers at least reasonably safe. But not this time. We were simply too late. I'll deal with that last brigand band, but as I say, I don't know what the solution is here. We can't afford to rebuild anything because we have nothing. We can't put down a settler's camp. Well, unfortunately, I think that well and truly means that Hedwand is lost to us. So we'll have to wait for a future series on this map to be able to build a fortress up here, which is very sad. But unfortunately, there is nothing we can do. We don't even have a single log to our name. And they burned down everything we had. A dire day indeed. We're going to lose many people to that. Perhaps then we'll have to make do for building a great fortress on these cliffs, looking over the lost region. We could also build a stone around here, possibly, so that is another option, but still, it's very sad to have lost a region. It feels preventable as well. Perhaps I should have had some cheap mercenaries situated there to guard the region. There's little point in keeping you now. We will try and forget about the fact that we have villagers starving to death over there. It's not very tranquil, is it? And how are we doing here? So, we're still working on getting the fields harvested by the looks of things. And then we'll start turning the rye into grain. And then once we've done that, we'll start to get families working at the windmill. We've got a few properties ready for upgrade down here. And how have we got on here? Yep, we've got that one set up ready. Let's also get this place set up for an orchard. And in here we're going to plant pears. And here we'll plant apples. And soon we will commit to building our keep here. And we're still harvesting the fields down here. And up here, looks like they're helping with harvesting down in these fields. What we might do is set this farmhouse's work area to over here. We'll do the same for this one down here, so they each keep to their respective farms, because they are quite far from each other, and it's not the most efficient to be walking all over the map. Down here we continue to bring in finances. We're working on upgrades down there, and we are busy in the fields. Looks like we're starting to plough the ground for next year. So what if we actually got out the ground this year? 51 barley and 117 wheat. I'm going to go to the trading post and we're going to stop trading wheat. Now we have charcoal to export for money. We don't need to be spending our precious food on doing so. And how are we getting on at the farm down here? So, it's like we're basically all done, are we? With the harvesting at least. 120 rye sheaves. So soon hopefully we'll turn that into rye grain. We may need to still collect it from the fields though. Looks like that's what they're working on at the moment, so that's splendid. And if we've spare hands, then we will get the windmill operational. And do we have anyone working at the bakery? We do. 311 is a worker there, that's fine. And the malt house and oven are staffed here as well. Let's get an additional family working at the fisherman's hut. And in our main region, we've got planting there, and then we'll plant apples in this side here. And hopefully our workers have gone back to work at their own fields. It looks like they have indeed. So we're getting ready for next year's harvest by planting up. We've got 135 rye sheaves, which soon will be turned into rye grain, and getting the windmill operational. We may even need to build a second windmill in Mandlik. Are we done with the fields over here? 134 sheaths, and we are working on getting the fields ready for next year. And we have our last few survivors wandering around hopelessly before they passed away. Very sad. Very sad indeed. And it sounds like we've exhausted a deposit somewhere. Is it this one here? No, we've still got 779 on the surface here. We finally got through our clay. So let's dig a deep mine. And hopefully we do a better job of getting down and getting clay out of the ground now that the surface deposits are gone, because this deep mine has not really produced anything at all. We may even need to open an additional mine in the corner here. Right. Let's convert both of these to small holdings, and there'll be families that work permanently inside of the manor, and we can imagine they do other tasks as well as tending the orchards. And once the harvests are done, in fact we've got a few spare workers now, so let's get a couple assigned up here in the foresters' huts. Move your things inside, people. And how are we doing for meat? Still got 9 pork, got a bit of chevron, got some eggs, got plenty of vegetables, got plenty of fruits actually as well. Got a few berries. Could still do with more meat on the market. That's something that we're working on. And look at the gorgeous orchards we have down here following the river. That really is lovely. Got a house ready for upgrade down here, so we'll get that one on the way. And just as soon as these upgrades are done here, then we're going to get on with the upgrade to the manor. We may want to build an additional farmhouse over here. It's taken them quite some time to get through these fields, they are quite large. And we are also going to want to do some farming over here, so we may need to have some additional farm space ready for that. If only we decide to settle in Nasvice. This wise, oh well. Nothing to be done about it now. We'll just simply press on with what we have available to us and make do. So we have 36 wool, 49 leather. We've got quite a lot of leather here actually. A little bit of yarn, which we can start to turn into some clothing. Which I assume we are already doing. Yep. But I imagine they're being used up as soon as they're being made. We're also going to need to think about expanding living space down here sometime soon as well. Gosh, these have really filled up quite quickly, haven't they? So let's get our second row behind them set up ready. What are we short on? We're actually short on timber. What's our saw pit set to? Ooh. Not enough. Let's set that to 30. And let's open an additional logging camp. And those are both things that we'll need to do before we can get a significant amount of building done. We might also need in this region, as we did in our other, a second farmhouse, because we really have expanded the space we have here for fields. And how are we doing here? It looks like we're pretty much done. So let's unassign some of these families and make sure we've got a decent number assigned to the windmills, which we do. Let's get someone working at the sheep farm. We'll fill up the fisherman's hut at the end of the year. We're done with the mushrooms, so we need not have someone in the forager's hut. Let's get an additional man working at the malt house. And let's get the forester's huts active while we can before winter kicks in. And then we'll transfer people over to the woodcutters' lodges and the charcoal kilns. And we continue to bring in a bit of money here, so let's also build a livestock trader. So we can start to import some sheep to this region. Another couple of houses ready for upgrading. One will oblige. And are we done here as well? Yeah, we're pretty much done here. So let's unassign those families from the farmhouse. I'd imagine it's the same up here as well. Yep. And let's get those workers into the windmill. And make sure that the communal oven is active as well. Which it is. So they'll be producing a good amount of food. And already we have 57 rye bread. How much wheat? 111 rye grain. Which is making wheat flour, presumably. Got a fair bit of honey sat around as well. And finally over here, we'll check how we're doing. Yep, we're done here as well. But there's still quite a few sheaves to make into grain, so we'll leave a few more families working there and get the windmill active as well. We mourn the Hedewand, but the rest of our regions continue to thrive. That's all we have time for today, friends. I hope you found this as relaxing to watch as I found it to make. As always, I appreciate you and your feedback. Until next time, cheerio.